Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Fiction Room. Today's writing prompt comes to us from username Jonathon12. The prompt is, you never kill the spiders in your home. You just whisper, today you, tomorrow me, when you set them outside. Now, in your most dire moment, an army of spiders arrives to have your back. Our first story of the day is written by Shim Writing. Why don't you just kill them? Because they're living creatures, Lindsay. You ask me that every time. Oh, shut up! She rolled her eyes, cutting him off. He sighed as he opened the door to the backyard. The moon was full, but barely visible through the clouds. He knelt in the grass and whispered, today you, tomorrow me. The spider leapt from his palm and disappeared into the darkness. He crouched there for a minute, wishing that he too could disappear into the darkness. He just didn't have the strength to leave. No one believed that she had given him his scars. They didn't want to believe. He saw it in their eyes. They would laugh, mock him, shrugging it off, waving their hands, shaking their heads as if to rid their ears of the words. He didn't tell many people. A coworker, a guy from the gym, his brother, and his best friends from school. The disregard for his confession hurt more than a book to the head or a fork to the arm ever could. But nothing hurt more than her betrayal. Every apology was a glimmer of hope that the woman he had fallen in love with would return. Every insult she spat and object she hurled made him wonder if she was ever there, or if it had all been a dream. He stood up slowly and turned to go into the house. If I were more understanding, more giving, patient, she'd remember what we had and come back, he thought. He'd had thousands of similar thoughts. He was a fixer. Maybe he could fix it. Fix himself, fix her, fix them. Deep down he knew that he couldn't. But his hope and her blame kept him tied there. He had tried counselors. He went alone when she'd refused to go. And when she insisted that he stop, that the counselor was driving them apart, he stopped. He shook his head, disappointed in himself again. Honey, he said, opening the door. What do you think about trying to see Dr. Smith again? Whack! He heard the sound of glass shattering, but he didn't know what had hit him. He struggled to get up, but something else hit him, and he went down again. Lindsay, please! He looked up to see her looming over him, his old baseball bat in her hands, and he put his hands up to protect his face as she swung at him over and over and over, and then she was shrieking. What is that? Ah! Get them off! Get them off! He lifted his head to see his wife being swept out the back door in a wave of blackness. He thought he was hallucinating. His head was throbbing, bleeding, as he struggled to get up. Leaning against the back door, he watched as she disappeared into the woods, her scream echoing. Lindsay! He called after her, attempting to follow, but he collapsed in the doorway. The next morning, he woke up on the couch. He groaned, eyes adjusting to the early morning light. The room was filled with evidence of the night's event, but Lindsay wasn't there. He started to sit up and look for her when he noticed a black rectangle on the wall. It looked like it was moving. Slowly, the blackness shifted, forming the words, yesterday us, today you. Our second story is written by Rarely Funny. Adam Kinsley awoke to a nightmare. The adrenaline pumped so hard that his blood sang in his ears. He rubbed his eyes, pinched himself, then distractedly struck his alarm clock off the nightstand in an effort to silence it. But still, the images remained. He took deep breaths, then reached for the phone by his bed. Maybe talking to somebody would break the spell, he thought. "Jenny?" he said after the second ring. "Adam? What the? It's 7:30 in the morning. Are you still at home?" "I just wanted to check, if I was dreaming." "Dreaming? Have you been drinking? It's Tuesday. You better not be hungover. The September presentation is today. Jesus, get your butt to the office." The phone slipped from Adam's hand. He was a born salesman, able to talk the ear off anyone who would listen. But he somehow couldn't find the right words to describe how a sea of spiders had blanketed his apartment ceiling, covering it from edge to edge in black, furry, chitinous carapaces. He wondered briefly if this had anything to do with the spiders he had been rescuing and setting free. He never saw the point in killing them, not when they were harmless and kept other pests away. But he had also never knew that they would infest in this manner. Regret and anger swirled into a potent cocktail, clouding his mind. "This is how you repay me? When it's the most important day of my career so far?" he said, as he slid from his bed, inching towards the door. "My landlord's going to kill me. You know that, right?" Fresh horrors awaited him in the living room. All points of exit were swathed in what appeared to be layers of cobwebs, and the morning sun streamed but weakly through the swaddled windows. Adam turned as he heard the scurrying of a million legs behind him, and barely held up his hands in time to ward off a stream of spiders flying through the air, erupting towards him. "What the hell?" Adam cried, as he lost his footing and fell. He expected to connect hard with the teak floors, but instead, he bounced off a freshly woven coat webbing, cocooning him. He flexed, but he barely made any headway. A chittering filled his ears, and he had to fight from opening his mouth to scream. "Please," he whispered, the tears filling his eyes. "I never hurt any of you. I always watched out for you. Why is this happening to me? I just want to go to work. Forget any of this happened. Please. Please." The webbing soon covered him fully, though the spiders left just enough space for him to breathe through and to peer out from. He lay on the ground, facing the television. He wriggled, trying to get away, but he couldn't move. He tried to scream too, but no one heard him. His prison was complete. Then, stretching his belief to the point of breaking, he saw a single spider, triple the size of those around it, dangle down from the ceiling, swinging closer to the television. The other spiders moved away from it, giving it the space it needed. The queen then extended a single leg, then activated and turned the television on. The news channel logo flashed briefly on the screen, before cutting to a newscaster on the streets of New York. Adam recognized first the deli in the background, then the street signs, then the building in the background of the shot. The familiarity was unmistakable, especially after he had worked at the same place for years. He couldn't even imagine himself there. The familiarity was unmistakable, especially after he had worked at that same place for years. He could even imagine himself there, at the scene, already reporting for work like any other day at his office on the 110th level, were it not for the sudden infestation of spiders. "Reports are just coming in," said the newscaster, the panic and worry etched clearly on her face. "There appears to be an explosion on the North Tower, over 100 floors up. Eyewitnesses say, and I'm having trouble believing this myself, but they say that a plane, yes, a plane." Our third and final story of this episode is written by Username is Toucan. It had all come down to this. I stand upon this rooftop silently contemplating my life. I had always been the compassionate type. Each day I made as many selfless acts as possible, I don't like to see anyone or anything struggle. I'm the type of person that always gave away my spare change, helped elderly women across the street, and even things most people wouldn't blink about, like setting spiders outside instead of killing them. I had spent my life helping the helpless. Maybe because I knew what it was like to be helpless. There was no good reason why I was depressed. I had a fairly normal childhood. Nothing stands out that could have potentially led to my depression. None of that really mattered anyway. I've grown tired of trying to help those around me, because every time I begin to feel as if I've made an impact, I realize the world is just as desolate as before. I've never felt any sense of purpose or belonging. In my eyes, all the caring I've done never amounted to anything in my life. My last wish is that my impact is remembered by somebody. Anybody. I felt a cold rush of air overcome my senses. It fills my nostrils, makes my eyes water, whistles through my ear, sends shivers across my skin, and violently thrashes my long, unkempt hair. I have no time to think. It doesn't feel fast or slow. It just kind of happens. As I begin to realize the gravity of the situation, I collide with something. I yelp, shortly before realizing that I feel no pain. For a brief moment, I'm going upwards until I come down and fall delicately into what appears to be a large, tightly woven spider web. The crescent moon lighting allows me to barely make out that I'm about 10 feet above the ground. Slowly I see hundreds of spiders, maybe more, come into focus. From all angles I see eightfold eyes staring back at me. And then they begin to move in a flurry of excitement. Quickly they disperse, leaving a small area clear and obvious. Spelled out a la Charlotte's Web, I make out the words, "Today you, tomorrow me." It turns out that for all of these years, someone actually remembered all that I had done. Thanks for listening to The Fiction Room. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. It really does help us. But for right now, stay safe out there, everyone. See you next time.